So, you probably think all plants make food the same way, right? Well, it turns out that's not exactly true. Most plants are running on a system that, honestly, it has a pretty big, costly flaw. But a select group of plants evolved this incredible, high-octane upgrade to fix it. And that's what we're going to get into today, the big showdown between C3 and C4 photosynthesis.
And it all really boils down to a pretty simple question. Have you ever wondered why a corn stalk can just thrive in the brutal summer heat, while something like a wheat plant really struggles? The answer? Well, it's all about this deep evolutionary split in how they handle carbon dioxide, energy, and of course, water. Okay, let's dive in. Now, we're not going to talk about the flashy part of photosynthesis, the whole capturing sunlight thing. We're actually going to focus on the second act, what scientists call the dark reactions, or the Calvin cycle. This is the real nitty-gritty, the construction phase, where that CO2 from the air gets turned into actual sugar. This whole process is what's known as the C3 pathway. And a good way to think about it is like, it's the original standard issue operating system for plants. I mean, this is the method used by the overwhelming majority of plant life on our planet. We're talking everything from the tallest trees all the way down to the tiniest algae.
Yeah, I know, that diagram looks pretty complicated, right? But don't worry, we can actually boil it down to three main phases. The first one is called carboxylation. That's just capturing the CO2 from the air. Then you've got reduction, which is where the plant uses energy to build the sugar. And finally, regeneration. That's where the whole cycle just resets itself to go again. So the star of the show in that first phase is this enzyme called rubisco. Its entire job is to reach out, grab CO2 from the atmosphere, and kickstart this whole process. And get this isn't just some random enzyme. It is the single most abundant protein on planet Earth. It's literally everywhere. But of course, a process like this isn't free. Building sugar costs energy, right? And for every single molecule of CO2 that the plant grabs, it has to pay a price. It spends 3 units of ATP, and you can think of ATP as the cell's universal energy currency. And the spending doesn't stop there. The plant also has to throw in 2 molecules of something called NADPH, which provides the electrons for the actual construction. So let's tally that up. The total price for 1 molecule of CO2 is 3 ATP and 2 NADPH. Just hang on to those numbers for a minute. All right, so you think for a process this fundamental to life on Earth, it'd be perfect, right? Well, the C3 pathway has this surprisingly costly glitch, a major inefficiency that can become a huge problem when things get tough. You see, that all-important enzyme we talked about, rubisco, it kind of has a divided loyalty. It's not just interested in carbon dioxide, it also has a thing for oxygen. And this is where things go wrong, leading to this disastrously wasteful process called photorespiration. Think about it. When it gets hot and dry, what do plants do? They close up their pores to save water. But that means oxygen starts to build up inside the leaf. And poor old rubisco, it gets confused. It starts grabbing oxygen by mistake, running the whole cycle, spending all that precious energy, and producing absolutely zero sugar. It's like a factory running completely in reverse, just burning fuel for nothing. But hey, evolution is pretty clever, right? To solve this huge oxygen problem, a group of plants came up with a brilliant workaround. And this is where we meet the C4 pathway. And we're not talking about some obscure plants in the jungle here. We are talking about some of the most important crops in the world. Corn, sugarcane, sorghum. These are all C4 powerhouses, and they are perfectly adapted to thrive in exactly those hot, sunny places where a C3 plant would just give up. So what's their secret? Well, it's all in their anatomy. It's totally unique. C4 plants use this special 2-cell system. They do the first part, capturing the CO2 in an outer cell. Then, they shuttle that captured carbon into a protected inner cell, and that's where the normal C3 cycle happens, safely tucked away. So what this really means is that C4 plants basically create this high-pressure CO2 chamber deep inside the leaf, right where rubisco is waiting. It's like they have this little CO2 pump. They actively pump carbon directly to the C3 cycle, and they just flood rubisco with so much CO2 that the enzyme doesn't even get a chance to see any oxygen. It can't make a mistake. Problem solved. Okay, so we've got the classic C3 pathway, and then we've got the souped-up C4 pathway. Let's put them head to head. Let's really see what the key trade-offs are. And wow, when you see them side by side like this, the difference in complexity just jumps right out at you. You look on the left, you've got the simple, direct, one-step C3 cycle. Then on the right, you have that much more intricate two-cell shuttle system for C4. I mean, you can literally see the extra machinery they had to build. Okay, this table really breaks it down nicely. C3 plants, they just use rubisco. C4 plants, they use this super efficient enzyme called pepcase first, and then they use rubisco. Photorespiration, yeah, it's a huge problem for C3 plants in the heat. For C4 plants, almost non-existent. But, and this is the big but, here's the catch. Look at that energy cost. That CO2 pump is expensive. To make just one molecule of glucose, a C4 plant spends a whopping 30 ATP. A C3 plant only spends 18. That is a massive, massive energy premium they're paying just to avoid that waste.
So there it is. That's the trade-off, plain and simple. C3 is simpler, it's more energy efficient, but only in cool, wet climates. As soon as it gets hot and dry, C4's high-energy, waste-avoidance strategy gives it this huge advantage. It lets them grow faster and use water way more efficiently.
And that leaves us with a really provocative question, doesn't it? As our planet keeps warming up, are we looking at a future that belongs to these incredibly efficient, heat-loving C4 plants? I mean, it's a question that could totally reshape not just agriculture, but entire ecosystems as we know them.